This is Ann White, host of Artist on the Air, and I just had the most wonderful chat with artist Alexis Ortiz-Duarte. Sadly, my internet was fading in and out, and I decided that since you all will know what he looks like, and you already know what I look like, every time the video freezes, I will insert a photo of his art or maybe his inspirations for creating. And you can see them while we chat. Today, I would love to get lost in one of Alexis's calming nature-inspired installations and forget they'll even have technology. But alas, without technology, many of you around the globe and the country would not be able to enjoy this tantalizing peek at his art. So off we go. Welcome to Artists on the Air. My name is Ann White. I am your host, and I am so excited to bring you an artist and friend of mine, Alexis. You and I both have the opportunity and privilege, I think, to work at the John Michael Kohler Art Center and Art Preserve. And I bring that up
Yes.
because this year our theme is This is Where I'm Coming From. And I love that theme because it's so pregnant with possibilities, geographical, mood, image, identity. So I'm going to start out this interview by asking you to share your answer to This is Where I'm Coming From. Where are you coming from, Alexis?
My goodness. I'm coming from everywhere all the time at once. It depends. At the moment, I guess I'm coming from a place of anxiety and love. It's always a funny thing to talk about, and for me to talk about my work.
Mhm.
Uh, but if I'm being less esoteric and more literal, like this is where I'm coming from. As an artist, I'd have to say the from where the need to make springs from. I'm coming from that point. I I'm a maker.
Mhm. And when I think of you, sometimes with a person, they have an artistic life and then they have an other, but your life is art. Everything about you is art. And so somewhere in there, there's that germ or that inspiration that just makes you art. Where do you think that inspiration comes from?
I don't know. I think early on, I knew I was different, queer, and not like the other boys, and my older brother knew that. And so I spent a lot of time defending myself outside of the home, inside of the home. Um, but in one glorious, some glorious afternoon, I think when I was 15 years old, I found a theater company that was advertising for like free participation, and you'd have to pay to join and play. And I started doing theater, and I got a taste of what it was like to live like an artist because the age ranges were all over the place. And so I got to go to parties underage and go on really long, like romantic walks with like groups of friends to talk about art and how we felt about it. And although I wasn't a very profound poet at the time, I was encouraged. So writing and then like this idea of how I can express every part of me came into play.
Mm-hmm. So it first came in with theater and poetry. When did you
Yeah,
start creating? Did you start sewing first? Because I know sewing is a big part of your creative impulses. Um,
yeah. Yes, I started sewing at a really early age. My mother was given a sewing machine by my stepfather, who, I don't know, for lack of greater understanding, I believe was trying to domesticate her. And she did not want that. So I got to play with it. And it, amongst a couple other things, were certain toys that my brother didn't take from me, you know? So I got to, full, what do you call that, access to a sewing machine. So I was sewing pillowcases and, you know, following patterns, taking clothes apart and putting them back together.
so when did you start doing your creative art. Sewing is creative, but I guess you do clay and so many other sculptural pieces. When
Yeah.
did that start, or how did that start?
Well, I took some upholstery courses as well, so that
Hmm.
got me to like regarding shape and form, curve, and modularities. So I got real good at that, and but the clay came from when I went to Guatemala after school. I stayed there for about 4 years and got contracted to work with Save the Children and organization called ADEJUC, which is the Alianza del Desarrollo de Juventud de Canilla. And Canilla is a town in the northern mountains of Guatemala that had very little exposure to foreigners and queer ones at that. And I got to working with clay because it was a medium that we could use that was free. And the town already understood it because they were kind of known for making roof tiles out of clay. So I didn't have to convince them that it was a form that we could play with. And I got contracted to work particularly with a couple of schools to integrate art and find a way to bridge certain subjects that the kids didn't really find interesting enough, I guess, like math. So one fun thing that I think really triggered a lot of my making was this dynamic geometry class I created, where we would literally make cones and
Hmm.
spheres and cubes and all the shapes out of clay, and that got me and my hands in that mode. And I don't think I've left it since. And I was 20s, now I'm 46.
Yeah. Well, let's take a moment and, well, it's going to be a long moment because I couldn't decide what pieces of your art to look at. So we're going to look at quite a few. And I'm going to do a thing now of sharing screen. So if you bear with me. All right. Are you with me, Alexis?
Um,
Okay,
this,
I like this one because it seems like it's got a lot of your pieces. I see here in the background, this is some of your writing, I believe. And I'm going to have another close-up of this piece because it's a whole treasure trove here.
yeah.
Would you share describe this picture of,
This was an installation I did at Columbia City Gallery in Seattle.
mhm,
I was grouped with two artists that I had never met nor worked with, and I saw one piece that one of the artists kind of just sort of had tirado, we say in Spanish, just like on the side of the, whatever, not, not cared for, and it looked very much like a temple to me. And I immediately started to think, what would I find inside the temple? Like, what would somebody see? What are the tools that the people in the pulpit would be posturing with? And and the things that they would be saying. Um, and this is sort of like a little church scene happening. I
mhm,
upholstered, I upholstered the seats.
right
I
in
built
here, yeah.
that archway, so like, mimic the grand, what are they called? The stained glass windows.
Mhm, mhm,
All the verbiage though is uh at the same time I was trying to learn French. And so those are all phonetic um French. So like if you look all the way to the right, top all second row down from un, it starts OON. Yeah.
mhm.
That says if you just like say it the way it's spelled, like you're reading English, you're actually speaking French. And it says un sentiment de paix, which is a sense of peace.
Aha. I'm gonna do this piece. This, I think, is that table I was pointing
Yeah.
to. There's so much here. Do you want to unpack a little bit of it?
Yeah, so I decided to go a bit more ceremonial,
Mm-hmm.
considering what I do like about church is the rituals. And so like in those moments there are tools that are used and you can see rattles, which I would make out of laurel and bottle caps to help
Mm-hmm.
call spirit to you, because the voice sometimes isn't enough. There are a couple of very phallic pieces just to the left of it that I call soul prods to sort of like get people's soul moving, one's connection to it. But there's always a sense of humor as well, such as the prods and the beater. The beater is the one all the way to the left with the big black spikes on it and the
Yeah.
Laura. That's my soul beater.
And did you probably made the ceramics here too, right?
Yeah, they're like my moon bowls. There's a lot of cracks in them, which I kind of forced by firing the work a little higher than it's
Mhm.
technically formulated for. Creating bubbles and crack, even bigger, deeper cracks and crevices. And
And
I'm
very
not,
organic too. I guess maybe the imperfections, would I be wrong in thinking the imperfections in ourselves or something, or have I gone astray?
no, you're right on. I'm not ashamed to say a lot of my is self-portraiture.
Yeah, because I'm
And
thinking of the cracks and, the bubbles. We might have in our own personalities.
life being lived, like a pristine object is all well and good, with like perfect corners and unseen seams, but I like the scars and
Mhm.
the bruises and the
And
coloring.
speaking
Ah.
of, right today, this morning, right?
Yeah, I started it last night, but yeah, I painted the mustache this morning. I saw the potential for a face and thing happened. So my nickname as a child is Orejas, and that's kind of an amalgamation. Well, it's Orejonejo is my art name, but Orejas is my given nickname as a child because my ears have always been big. That's what that form is at the very top there.
Hmm.
Um, that's actually a little lid and it comes off. Like you grab it by the ear like you do a child when they're misbehaving, and you take the lid off, and then there's just space for a candle, really. I have,
Thank you for sharing this piece. I'm so glad we got a chance to look at it.
oh, sure.
Now, I've seen some of your pieces that have these like funnels or points on them. Is there significance to that, or is it just a form that attracts your eye?
Um, all of the above. It's definitely attractive to me, otherwise I wouldn't do it.
Sure.
The spikes are um, a response to a couple of different things. One is how I felt I might have been being treated at a particular time in my life, underappreciated
Hmm.
as a person, as a maker, as everything that I, could list off as of that I attribute to myself. Um, and a way to slow people down when dealing with what I am, in this case, literally bringing to the table because this is tableware. And so one would, immediately, and I'm guilty of it as well, just sort of grabbing the cup near you and, like taking your thing and like not giving it a second thought, but I wanted to somehow force the user to slow down, mind how you're about to deal with me or my work, and then take your time and to enjoy it.
I'm
You know?
glad you explained it, though. I love that.
Yeah.
Go and see what's next. Oh, this we're going to have two shots. I'm going to show you both here, and then
Uh,
we'll come back. Do you want to explain or talk about these wonderful pieces? Which shot
yeah.
is the best? This?
This is Vamos. That's the front and back. It's a hand-built clay urn florero or vase. It's maybe 18 inches high, and that nest at the top holds a handle knob thing that you could take off so it can be used as a flower vase. And then the arms are attached after the fact because they're wire sculpted with foam and fabric around them. And then together they're Venga y vamos, which translates to come on, let's go.
I love
And
that.
this is in the window. This is in the window at a beautiful boutique in Milwaukee,
Mm.
Il Bosco.
And I like these because when I first met you, I looked at you as someone who was a master of ceramics. And then I got to know, which you are, and then I got to know your sewing and the fabric part. So these are a combination of
Yeah.
those two pieces, but then also the nature
Yeah.
surrounded by things. So I thought this resonated with me. Okay, and this one, do you remember this piece?
Oh yeah. This is my Tooth Fairy series. Those are all little hand-built teeth. And those tooth fairies, they have wire bodies, like acrylic packing tape, and then
Mm-hmm.
fabric over them, and then they're stitched. They're about a foot high, and the heads are ceramic. And the idea was you take them by their legs and use them to knock your loose teeth out.
Did you
And then
ever do that to any of your little relatives, cousins?
just, oh no, oh my God.
Now, this piece is got there's so much to it. Do you
Mm.
want to? Where do you want to start?
Well, it's called catharsis, which is an homage to the having made it catharsis and ism, um, my with religion, and it's got a bit of upholstery, ceramics, sewing, multimedia for sure. The eyes were a response to the need to understand and like gain perspective, and I was having trouble understanding the theme and which was self-healing. The
And,
plates
and
are
the feet, yeah.
Yeah, the plates are pieces of my body that I have issues with. So like I took the healing thing a little bit more literal, like let me get over myself. Um, the toward the back are my love handles, my ashy knees just in front of them, and then my weird toes. They're not yellow like that. This is all, but they are weird. I find feet to be weird to begin with, and my feet are the weirdest.
And does the
Um,
writing say anything that we should know?
yes, it is a cuento is like a little canto that's saying to children when they hurt themselves. It says, sana, sana, colito de rana, si no sana hoy, sanará mañana, which literally translates to heal, heal, my little wiggly frog tail. But if it doesn't heal today, it'll heal tomorrow. Kind of, I think, laughter is medicine
Oh, I
approach.
love that. I'm glad I asked that. I love the poem. Yeah, thank you. Uh,
Yes, yes, it's
oh,
cute.
here's another piece to unpack. I bet these are your quilts.
Yeah, that's a quilt that I made. It's got a lot of fabric from my elder brother's clothing. The one who passed away,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
2020. This was a present to my mom, but before I gave it to her, I sort of gave it to the world in this context as an installation. Um, I think the show was called A Thousand Autumns, Mil Otoños, and I took it as a processing and counting down the days since my brother passed. It was kind of intense. I've been blessed to not have to have dealt with death in my 42 years.
mm-hmm.
And then for it to happen to somebody so close to me.
Beautiful. I love the muted color tone.
Yeah,
And
certainly. Yeah, I like color.
we'll see that in some of these pictures coming up.
Yeah, but I think my mom has had a big influence on me. So anytime I think of particularly strong of my family, neutrals come into play because my mom was very into taupes and like an accent wall that was, slightly gold and
Mhm.
very chic. And so sometimes it
Beautiful.
plays its part, the use of that color.
And here we come with some
This.
color. This is again is a major. This is an installation somewhere.
Yeah, this was sort of like a party for my 15-year-old self in a lot of Latino cultures and even in American. I think your version is called Sweet 16 and we
Hmm.
call it quinceañera, which is the Sweet 15. And there's not technically a quinceañero because I identify as well as other things as a boy, man.
Hmm.
And so quinceañero is my thing, and I wasn't given one, and this was my chance to do it. I decorated it like a party, and it shows a little bit of everything that I do.
Hmm.
Quilting, upholstery, pottery, uh,
Costume.
costumes. Those are dresses. There are three in them. My collective, like my collection obsession, like there's that Japanese basket there off to the left filled with avocado pits, which I ended up using as game pieces. Um, those bowls that were in the other show, they triggered another piece because not everything from my installations, even though it's for sale, doesn't sell, shockingly. So it ends up in other work.
So here's your sewing. I'm kind of quilty. I see chairs. describe this installation. Oh, I see a hand up here I hadn't seen before. Okay. Take it.
This is it's like a 3D quilt. The chairs are hand-built clay and they're meant to be used or metaphorically like you rest there, you work here, there's tools to work with. The tower itself sort of represents, I don't know, a goal being I guess community and a place to be and find rest. The eyes, obviously, you see those were left over from that other project.
Mhm.
Well, this piece is called Soft. It was for a show called Soft Power. And it's at the Tacoma Art Museum, and it was up for a year. It was my first museum show
Mhm.
piece, actually. It's quite lovely. Lots of people dealing with heavy emotions, and you can see that piece in the back on the wall. They're very colorful, very queer. It was
Is
the
that someone
coolest group
else's
of people.
piece or is that yours?
Yeah, that's somebody else. That's somebody
Uh-huh.
else's work.
But it blends in nice with where you're going.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. Let's see what's next. Oh, now I have never seen you wearing this. Is this the reason you don't wear this to work?
It's sold.
Is this two pieces, the front and
No,
back?
that's the front and back.
Okay, yeah.
It's back.
That's an amazing, this is an amazing jacket.
Yeah, yeah. It was a vintage military jacket that fit me perfectly. I can't believe it's gone.
I know,
I couldn't
you
help
wear it
myself.
so well.
It needed all of this. Yeah. So, time filling. I think a lot of my work is very process based. So this is, yet another little process.
Alexis, if somebody wanted to see your work, where would they find it? Online, I know you have a couple of wonderful sources. Can you share some of that with us?
Yeah, there's Big Cartel, which has products like the pieces and parts from all those installations that you might have seen pictures of.
And for
Um,
Big Cartel, what's your tag or your handle?
it's my artist name, and I think you can find it on WordPress, which is a blog, Instagram, and Big Cartel, Orejonejo, Orejonejo. It's my two nicknames, Orejas and Conejo, which basically just means like big-eared rabbit.
Okay. Okay. So I just want to thank you so much for your time today and letting us dig deep into your life, whether it was somewhat a little uncomfortable, maybe, but I hope it was comfortable for you. And I thank you.
It's, the comfort thing is something I have to get over as an artist. It's important to be able to speak about your work, gracefully and
And as you did, as
I
you
try.
did.